Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, everybody, and a happy Tuesday to all of you. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company. It is 5:07 a.m. on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. Good morning, Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
I always love coming in and sitting down with Julie because, you know, it's one of those things. The fact that it's 5:07 a.m., it just makes it all disappear. And I hope it all does with you as well, sitting here chatting with Julie. We got a great show today on Tuesday. I'm going to be joined later on by Oklahoma State Education Superintendent Ryan Walters. Some really big moves happening in Oklahoma. Our old friend John Fund is going to break down today's top stories with us. And I'm really excited to talk to friend of the show and one of my good friends, Amelia Hamilton, because we're revisiting Amelia's list of Christmas songs that have to go, Julie. I know I have a few,
list.
I want to add to that list as well. But it really is going to be a great show today. So glad you could tune in. A much better start, by the way. Before we get to what's going on, better commute into the studio this morning, Julie.
It was yesterday at 4:30 in the morning or 4:15 in the morning. It was a little bit terrifying with the snow which had accumulated. It was sort of a shock, but yes, today
Surprise
it was
snowstorms.
smooth sailing.
All right, so listen, I want to start here because this story about what's going on college campuses, it is a situation in which we, as conservatives, Julie, we have long known that there is something fundamentally broken with our higher education systems. That colleges are just they are vast wastelands of political correctness and wrong standards being promoted, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of Americans are finally understanding this, watching these college presidents come up before Congress last week to talk about anti-Semitism, despite the weird spin that the Saturday Night Live tried to put on this. And obviously the presidents that have been greatly under fire were the president of Penn, McGill, who stepped down over the weekend, and Harvard president Claudine Gay, and there's another shoe that's dropped, which we'll get to. Let's go back. Let's go back, Julie, and let's revisit the hearing from last week. Here is Claudine Gay. Let's play cut one.
So is the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals.
By the way, so let's be really clear what Claudine Gay was saying. So if you're calling for the genocide of a group of people, that's okay contextually. But if you're calling of the genocide, which really means the murder of one person, that's bad. All right. So that's Harvard's weird standards that are out there. Now Harvard has other standards, Julie. Mm-hmm. Harvard has standards having to do with plagiarism, don't they?
They do.
Yes. And so, by the way, Harvard faculty, Harvard alumni, all supporting Claudine Gay in this very, very bizarre kind of situation last week. But the point is, so this story broke yesterday. Plagiarism is one of the worst things you can be accused of.
Yeah, in an I mean, of course. I mean, but of course,
in academia.
But don't forget. I mean, like our president is a plagiarist,
so yes.
It does not necessarily stop your career in its tracks. But yes, so Claudine Gay says this, and there's been an awful lot of pressure for her and the others to go. Liz McGill, as you mentioned at Penn, has now been gone, and now it's very clear it was kind of easy to get rid of the white Karen, but it's not so easy to get rid of the diversity hire with fancy glasses, because President Gay seems to be staying on, and now they are rallying. You mentioned the Harvard faculty, I think 500, 600 faculty have written this letter. First of all, I think there's like 1,900 faculty at Harvard. What the heck? Why? Why is there that many faculty
You know, so you
administrators?
say that. I think that's a small number. I don't know.
No,
'cause
that
it's
is a
Harvard, yeah.
large number, and it's one of these bloated administrations. Anyway, so they have come out in support of her, right? And now, to complicate matters, there's this plagiarism charge. They have actually found, Chris Rufo and others have gone through President Gay's academic, sort of what she's written. And by the way, she's never written a book, okay? The idea that she is the head of Harvard and she has never published a book, but she has written a number of papers, sort of these papers, which normally would not be enough to get you the presidency of a major institute, much less Harvard. But anyway, so now they have found entire paragraphs lifted from other academic work in President Gay's academic work. So it looks like plagiarism, and yet they're circling the wagons around her.
Yeah, well, anyway, listen, by the way, so I'm sort of looking at this because I know, I will say this. I know I have known very little about Claudine Gay's curriculum vitae, as it were, you know, and it's you know, I'm reading this piece. Well, it's thin, but also no. But my point is, you know, just in terms of her areas of academic expertise, and you read this. Her dissertation was about sociological studies of African Americans in high empowerment areas, and it's almost like a
all you
stereotype.
have to say is sociological. I mean, come on, it's. Yeah.
Right. But this is my point: is that it's almost a parody of it. So it almost writes itself in terms of like, okay, yeah, you know, Claudine Gay. You look at her and
with the glasses and the shaved head,
that's
and
exactly
like
right. You're like, okay, well, of course, this is what she was writing about. Listen, here's what I know about university presidents. Beyond that, they should have solid academic credentials and be of the highest integrity. The biggest role of a university president is to raise money. And you know, and have those sort of connections there to go and do that. And anyway, we've come from, in terms of Harvard presidents.
Well,
you know,
used to be able to raise money based on some academics' work, and the fact that you sort of support their scholarship and you want this area of research to extend. That was usually why you would have these. You would put someone with academic credentials in the place of a presidency, because yes, you're absolutely right, there is fundraising. Now the important thing is your place in the DEI framework.
That's exactly my point here. But this is where I'm going, because you've gone from, you know, a gentleman named Derek Bach, who was the Harvard University president for many years back, from the 1970s into the 1980s. Then you have Lawrence Summers, I mean, the former, you know, Secretary of the Treasury, a distinguished economist, sort of running these things with these great connections into the folks who could give to Harvard's massive endowment and support Harvard's massive endowment. And then you've got Claudine Gay, who, you know, goes and talks about the context of genocide and calling for genocide and whether or not that violates Harvard standards, and now is being accused of plagiarism. And sort of the line here is that's very important. We're going to get to more about plagiarism and its place in society. Harvard expelled in 2021. Harvard expelled 27 students for plagiarism. Listen, we're going to come back to this topic, but first it is 5:15 a.m. It's WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes.
MAL. Making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL, making sense of world events, because those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor. Today, sitting with me here is Julie Gunlock. Hello, Julie.
Hello. Oh, there it goes.
Go.
Okay, that was not my fault. That was not my fault.
No worries. No worries. It's all right. We don't judge here. As long as, listen, you're not committing plagiarism, so it's okay. Actually, if you were committing plagiarism, it would be fine. So in 2021, Harvard expelled 27 students for plagiarism, and I love this. This is from John Hassan on Twitter. But the president will reportedly get a free pass despite plagiarizing her PhD thesis. This is where we are, right. Of course, expelling students for plagiarism is so 2021. It's 2023. Now, this is from Campus Reform. A professor at the University of Cincinnati argues anti-plagiarism policies harm Black and Latinx students. And of course, she uses the phrase Latinx students. I mean, this is
the soft bigotry, right?
Right. Exactly. No, talk about that, because that's the real crux of this.
Yeah, look, it's just, it is so awful to say these kinds of things, to say, anti-plagiarism policies, which mean not copying people. When you say anti-plagiarism policies harm Black
Right.
and Latino students, this professor argues, as you just mentioned, this Campus Reform article, that is the soft bigotry of low expectations,
Right.
that we don't think that Black and Latino students can. And I refuse to say Latinx from this
I
headline,
agree. Yeah.
but it is vile, and yet there are people within those communities who will run with this, just like when they say things like, in schools around the country, that restorative practices are helpful because actual
Right.
punishment hurts Black and Latinos worse than as if there should be two different levels of punishment for the same crime because white supremacy made them do that, or because again, we don't have high expectations of Black and Latino students. So it's the same thing that we're seeing here.
Yes.
But this is not a surprise. I mean, anybody who is in this space who sort of recognizes the white supremacy made us do it kind of excuse now coming out of media like
Listen,
this. And academia.
It's interesting, because to talk about the proctoring software built to monitor students during remote exams perpetuates racial biases and stereotypes. I want to digress for a second here, Julie, because I just had to judge an essay contest. Students writing about the Constitution.
Fun.
It was a really, really fun exercise. And one of the things that I noticed, I read an essay. It was a really great essay. And then all of a sudden, I read another essay that seemed eerily similar. And then I read, I was reading 20. Yes. And it was very clear that the students had put the prompt for the essay into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT spit out roughly all of the same things. And guess what? Yeah, something. I was reading these blind. I had no idea who these students were. Just all tossed on the round onto the round pile. Into the round file. But this is the thing. Meanwhile, as this is happening, as I'm reading essays that are clearly being written by ChatGPT, we've got medical students learning about. This was a medical school. GW University, the faculty is Team Hamas, which is just, again, the George Washington University sparks outrage after faculty panel said Hamas has a right of resistance and failed to discuss the rape and murder terrorists committed on the.
This is absolutely disgusting. And GW, look, I feel like. It says something bad about me that I'm constantly shocked by these stories. I feel like I need to turn in my Washington. I've lived in Washington. Yeah. I should be more cynical. I should be used to this, but I am not. And I think when you see things like this, George Washington University, respected university right here in the nation's capital, their medical school. But I will tell you, if you follow Canary Mission, if you follow some of these Twitter accounts like Stop Anti-Semitism, the number of medical personnel that have exposed themselves as anti-Semites and pro-Hamas is frightening. Yeah. And actually a lot of hospitals have removed these people. But yeah, GW University School of the medical school there suggesting that Hamas had a right to do this.
Hey, how about this? How about, medical school is expensive enough. And part of the reason why we can't get enough doctors in America is that American medical schools are hugely expensive and you undertake huge debt. How about I don't want our med students to, I want them to be trained to be doctors,
Andrew,
or nurses or whatever.
The title of this panel was Understanding the Conflict in Israel and Palestine. Understanding the conflict? What are you talking about?
How about
they killed 1,200 Israelis? They raped. They set these people on fire. They killed children. What is there to understand? Is
Right.
this the context thing that we're talking about?
This is certainly the context thing, but in the end, right? What I want is spend your time learning how to be a doctor. That's what we need. We don't need doctors who understand the conflict in Israel and Gaza. We need doctors who know how to suture up a wound. Anyway, listen, we've got so much more to get to. Right now, it's 5:23 on WMAL. Well, we are back. In fact, we're going to continue to talk about these issues. There's more craziness on college campuses going on, Julie. This story apparently. The gender binary was imposed on Native Americans by European colonialists. More to come here on WMAL. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 5:37 here in the D.C. area. And right here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, we are making sense of the news. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor on O'Connor and Company. Joining me is Julie Gunlock. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's a cold day out there, isn't it?
It is freezing.
Julie during the break was like, "Oh my God, it's actually cold."
It's
Yes.
really cold.
Right, yeah, it's especially coming on the heels of the warm weather last week. Yeah, it's a little cold and damp out there. So
You think it's winter? Oh my gosh!
Yes, winter is coming. Listen, we got a great show this morning, as we always do here on O'Connor and Company. We're going to be talking with the Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters in the next hour about their move to break with the American Library Association. Big stuff. National Review's national affairs reporter John Fund joining us. Always love talking to John Fund, and friend of the show and friend of mine, Amelia Hamilton. She's going to be joining us. She's always up to good things. Of course, we're going to talk Christmas music. I watched my first Hallmark movie last week, Julie.
Oh, dear.
So I was in a
I've
bar.
never
It was
watched one
on the TV.
I feel like I have to turn in my girl card.
No. Yeah, really. For me, it was. Listen, it was on.
Did they tie you down
in a
and
bar.
make you?
I was in a bar, and it was on the TV.
Bar?
Yeah, I was getting. It's a whole thing. It's a thing. Just stick with me here, and I'll talk about it later on. But we were all taking bets as to what was going to happen with the plot. Still don't know what happened because I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched
You're wild and crazy.
Let me tell you something. Sitting in a bar watching Hallmark movies. That's right. This is what I do when I'm staying overnight in town. So, listen, we got I think we can move on from the craziness on college campuses. We all realize, again, Seton Motley maybe said it best, colleges for dummies.
I'm not sure.
So,
are we moving on? Yes, we are moving
yeah,
on.
no. We may come back. We may circle back. Listen, it's a perennial story. It's an evergreen story, the craziness on college campuses. But we do have news here in the continued saga of Donald Trump being prosecuted by the left. So interestingly enough, on Monday, yesterday, the special counsel, Jack Smith, jumped over the appellate courts to ask the Supreme Court directly to rule on whether Donald Trump can be prosecuted on charges he plotted to overturn the 2020 election results. Smith made his request for the court to act with unusual speed to prevent any delays that could push back the trial of the 2024 Republican presidential primary frontrunner, currently set to begin March 4th until after next year's presidential election. I mean, you're right. They want to get this thing wrapped up and sewn up because what Jack Smith wants is the maximum amount of chaos going into this election cycle. I mean, listen, they want this election cycle to be about whether or not Donald Trump should be prosecuted. We know the election is going to all be about Donald Trump, but this is just another way to just accelerate the process.
Yeah, and I'm
go
really disappointed that the Supreme Court approved this. It is disturbing. This is, again, I think you laid it out perfectly, nothing more than an attempt to keep him off of the ballot. And put him in jail.
Right.
Meanwhile, Jack Smith has extracted data from the cell phone of Donald Trump used while in the White House and plans to present evidence of his findings to a Washington, D.C. jury to demonstrate how Trump used the phone in the weeks during which he attempted to subvert the 2020 election. So, and the reaction to this news that Jack Smith is using this has been so disturbing. It's all these sort of whoops and hoorays for the surveillance state when it comes to Donald Trump. Only when it comes to Donald Trump. Otherwise, people, civil libertarians are like, oh gosh, this is really bad. But not now. Now they're totally fine with this sort of surveillance, which is creepy.
All right. I mean, this is again the double standard. We said this yesterday. If Democrats didn't have double standards, progressives didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. And right, it has always been about getting Trump uber alles. Over everything else, we can get Donald Trump. We've wanted to get Donald Trump since 2015. Here's what I keep coming back to, which is this situation about Donald Trump's state of mind after the 2020 election. Because I do think that Donald Trump, we could talk about Donald Trump's behavior and whether or not he calls himself a stable genius. We could talk about Donald Trump's behavior before the 2020 election. I think there is something to be said for the fact that 2020 and the loss in 2020 had a significant impact on Donald Trump. And here's my point, is that as Jack Smith is going to try to demonstrate through this cell phone data, that Donald Trump knew he lost the election and he didn't believe that the election was stolen, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I think the case can be made, and incredibly, that Donald Trump truly did believe that the election was stolen, right? There was evidence that was coming out. There were things that were being said. Lots of rumors were flying around. Plus, let us not discount the fact that Donald Trump, who had spent years essentially outmaneuvering the entire progressive movement, had seen it all undone in 2020. There was this crisis that was sprung on him, this pandemic in which he was poorly advised by people like Anthony Fauci and Birx and others. It allowed the Democrats to engage in all kinds of behavior. He went up against this weak opponent, Joe Biden, in the 2020 election, who didn't even go out and campaign, who was essentially campaigning from his basement. And I'm sure, after the 2020 election, Donald Trump was like, how the heck could I lose to this guy? I mean, it boggles the mind. So I'm not entirely convinced that Donald Trump's brain wasn't broken in some way, shape, or form by the 2020 election. I'm sorry, Julie.
Yeah, no. I mean,
as I rant here for a minute,
I think, look, we've got a witch hunt on our hands, and I think the tactics Jack Smith has been using, I think Julie Kelly has been doing incredible work tracking what the judges are doing in these cases, it's really revolting watching what is happening to Trump, and we know that all of this is an effort to keep him off the ballot. Right. That's what it is. And if you don't think that, I mean, what's so galling here is, you laid out, reasons why Trump, may have been frustrated. This is tampering with the election. Yes. This is it. This is exactly what we're watching while they're talking about, Trump, attempting to subvert the Constitution and steal the election. They're doing that exact thing
and by
right
the way,
now.
Extracting data from the cell phone of the President of the United States and handing it over to a jury, what could possibly go wrong with that? Listen, we got more to get to. It's 5:44 here on WMAL. We're back. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Langer. I'm in for Larry O'Connor today. I'm sitting with Julie Gunlock. And, of course, we're hearing these strains of the Rolling Stone Sympathy for the Devil. Because we got more satanic news out there, Julie. I think we need to put these, Heather, under Critter Corner from now on. So the Satanists are at it again. Those crazy Satanists are at it again. This time last week they put up a satanic display in the Capitol building in Iowa. Yep. Because, listen, we can hate Illinois Nazis all we want, but Iowa Satanists, we're supposed to embrace those guys. I mean, this is... It is. Here's the thing. I'm reading a story in his December 8th edition of his Sherman Liberty Letter. Representative Brad Sherman, whose district covers Iowa County and part of Johnson County. That confused me because the Brad Sherman that I know who's a representative is from California, and argues about
which seems fitting.
Yes. But this Brad Sherman is a state representative who's a pastor in Iowa. Yeah, and he defends
display. He basically defends it.
No. Let's be really clear. He is not defending it. Brad Sherman. He says that he's a pastor. He says this exhibit has drawn widespread outrage and disgust among Iowans.
Yes.
But few people think there's much that can be done. Essentially,
So you've got these libertarians who are like, no, this is, limiting free speech. So apparently the Satanic Temple applied and was
Yes.
approved. And that right there tells you that there is an application process,
Right.
that not everyone has to be approved for this. And someone in the state office was like, well, if we're going to have if we're going to have a Christmas tree or anything religious, which apparently they do. They have some religious displays
Sure.
in the Capitol building. Well, then we have to have a satanic display. That's baloney. You don't need to do this equally. And I'm so tired of this. So I see what you say. Yes, Sherman, who is a pastor,
Yes.
is actually
different Brad
suggesting.
Sherman. That's part of my point here.
Yes, is actually suggesting some regulations where they don't necessarily, or really some guidelines saying, hey, when someone wants to put up a goat head, you don't have to. Is it a
But I
goat
think
head?
here's
It's a
the
goat head.
interesting thing, that I come back to. Maybe this is a loophole in this. The Satanic Temple of Iowa applied, but they don't have an actual physical address. How about this? How about if you're going to apply? Because but here's my point. My point is, who are they representing?
Right.
I don't know.
It's a stick in the eye to Christians. All they want to
Well,
do,
yes, of course.
all they want to do is they want to annoy Christians and use the legal system and use this sort of idea of, we're going to let everyone be equal. So
But,
here's a
yes,
satanic
and the
display
point-
alongside a Christmas tree.
And the point is, in the end, and what Julie's talking about are standards here that can apply, which is one of these things. And this is sort of where I was going with this is, you can't have somebody, right? Because if we treat everything equally, put everything on an equal footing, then all of a sudden you have displays to the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster or the Blessed Church of the Fonz or whatever. Julie and I could create the anti-Bill Penzi Church. Throwback to yesterday's show, and Julie and I can apply and put up a display where we trash Bill Penzi in the name
it's just
of
gross.
our
It's just
religion.
gross.
Yeah, well, but it's gross. But there's also a certain degree of ridiculousness to it. We have to be a much more serious people. This is part of the issue of the decline of Western civilization, and the fact that we are an unserious people in many ways.
But I will
shape, or
tell you,
forms.
don't look, if you're looking for true Christmas displays, go to church. You can't even rely
Right, well,
on
that's
that
true.
now. You ever gone to a Methodist church lately? Oh my God, what are they celebrating? The trans flag? It's unbelievable. But okay, go go to a Lutheran church or a Catholic church. You're probably safe.
Yes, it's so funny because when my wife and I started attending a church, I had a friend who asked me, and he wanted to make sure it was the right kind of Presbyterian.
Right, exactly.
Church. This is
Even
all
the Episcopals, you can't
was-
even rely on the Episcopals anymore.
Exactly, and I'm sort of looking at this, and also, by the way, the display, the picture that we have here, it's of, I don't know, it looks like a garland of roses, but with a spangly, shiny, mirrory ram's head on it.
Yeah, and there's what is that? 1, 2, 3. It's the star, the
the
sign.
pentagram.
The
yes,
pentagram,
the
sorry.
five pointed
Five
upside down
point-
star
yeah,
with
they
the
got
upside
it
down cross.
inside there.
I've seen Rosemary's Baby, Julie. I know what these things are. Listen, it's 5:53 here on